Okay, we are recording. We are covering the lesson on OMHS. It's in folder Unit 3, Day 4. And everything is titled by its date, so you can find it in 11/3/21. You should be able to download the notes. The notes are the first thing posted there, and then the key is right under it. And then after we record our session, the recording will appear under that. If you can't download those, let me know. I think I fixed it, but well, you never know. All right, so today's lesson might actually feel familiar. You've heard these words before, or fingers crossed, I'm hoping you've heard some of these words before. And it should just be a little review of some things that you've learned. We'll add a little geometry to it. Okay, so we're going to talk about slope. Okay. I'm going to throw a poll up on the screen. Give me a smiley face if you have learned about slope before and you know what slope is. Give me a meh face if you've heard of it but you don't really remember it, and a frowny face if you've never heard the word slope before in your life. If you're on a phone or a tablet, you might not be able to see my poll, and if you can't see it, you can go ahead and just type it in the chat or just move on. Let's see. Clarifying real quick, we do not have school Thursday or Friday. So we do not have school on Thursday. Friday is an outing day. So you might still see something on your plan, but we've been told to keep it kind of light. Oh, of this week. This week we have school. This week we have school every day. Thursday and Friday next week. So Thursday the 11th is Veterans Day, no school. Friday the 12th, that's the outing day. There you go. Yeah. All right. Awesome. I see a lot of smiley faces here. That makes me smile too. If you give me a meh face, that's okay. That's what I'm here for. And nobody gave me a frowny face, so that really makes my day. So let's just kind of review slope a little bit for those of you who felt a little meh about it. Okay. When you have a line that looks, like this, it's slanting upward, we call this a positive slope. So whatever number represents that slope is going to be a positive number. A line going downhill, well, that's going to have a negative slope. A horizontal line has a zero slope, a slope of 0. Okay, and remember that's a horizontal line. And then a vertical line, its slope is undefined. Undefined. And that's a vertical line. All right, positive slope, we're going upward, and this is going left to right. Negative slope, you're going downward, left to right. A horizontal line has a 0 slope, and a vertical line has an undefined slope. Okay, because what's happening is whatever the slope is a number, and it's a number that describes how steep that line is. Okay? So if I'm walking along a line with 0 slope, it's not steep at all. So that's why it has a 0 slope. However, if we have a vertical line like my wall, I can't walk up my wall. It's too steep. It's impossible to walk up my wall. So we say that that slope is undefined. All right, cool. If you get disconnected, I will look for you, my dear. When you come back in, that's what I mean. All right, so let's practice some slope stuff. There's different ways that you'll be given the problems. And I'm going to give you ways to find the slope on either way. If the screen is too small for you, you are welcome to zoom in. I'm zooming in on my end, but I'm told it doesn't always zoom in on your side. Okay, so if it's really small on your screen, hopefully you can still zoom in. All right, so if we're going to find the slope and you're given a graph, you might want to use the idea that slope is rise over run. Perfect. All right, so Lydia says on the right, there are maximize and minimize buttons. Yes, so I think when I maximize and minimize my screen, it doesn't do it on your screen. So if it's too small for you, hit that little plus button and it should maximize it for you. All right, so if you're given a graph, you're going to use this idea of rise over run. I'm hoping this isn't too super new for you, but what that means to me is how many blocks do I go up and how many blocks do I go over? If you're going up, you're going in a positive direction. If you have to go down, well, that's a negative direction. If you have to go right, that's a positive direction. And if you have to go left, that's a negative direction. I usually start from the point on the bottom, but you don't have to. You could start from B. I like to start from the lowermost point. And to find the rise, I'm counting the blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I rose 4 and I went up 4. So that's a positive 4. Now, how many do I run? Well, I'm going to go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since I went right, that's positive. So my slope is 4/5. After this step, you always want to simplify that fraction. This one is already simplified for us, so that's awesome. But if it wasn't simplified, you would want to do that. And if you aren't very good at simplifying a fraction, you are welcome to use Desmos to do that. When you put 4/5 into Desmos, you should see a button that looks like a box over a box. It'll turn it into a simplified fraction for you. And if you would like help finding that, you can let me know and I'll help you out with that. Okay, so that was using on a graph. Let's practice on number 2. Okay, so pick whichever point you want to start with. Count your blocks. How many do you rise? How many do you run? If you're going up, it's a positive. If you're going down, it's negative. If you're going right, it's positive. If you're going left, it's negative. So let's do number 2. If you need to zoom in so you can count the blocks, please, you may do that. Once you have an answer, type it in the chat for me. I'm seeing a lot of really good answers. Make sure you simplify. Yeah, good. Okay. All right, I'm seeing a lot of also really close answers. So if you got -1/2, you got it. Awesome job. If you didn't get -1/2, let's find your mistake. Okay. So I started at Q. And I'll do it again where I start at P, but first I'm going to start at Q. I'm going to count how many do I rise. Well, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And since I went to the left, that's a negative. And I went left 6 spaces. 3 over -6 simplifies to a -1/2. If you started at P, then you went down 3. So you had a -3, and then you went to the right 6. So you had a +6, which still reduces to -1/2. So whether you started at Q and you went up and left, or if you started at P and you went down and right, you were going to get the same answer. Some answers I saw come through, I think some people did run over rise. So just be careful with that. It's rise over run. And just one little thing about negative numbers. Remember that no matter where that negative is, whether it's on the top or the bottom or even out front, these are all the same number. Oh, you counted wrong. That's okay. That's an easy one to fix. All right. Let's look at number 3. Interesting. Number 3. I'll do green. Okay. I'm going to start at N, and I want to go to M. How many do I rise? I rise 6. How many do I run? 0. Felt almost like a trick question. We can't divide by 0. That's mathematically illegal. You cannot divide by 0. So the slope for this line is undefined. Anytime you get a 0 in the denominator, you're going to have an undefined answer. It's not 0, it's undefined. Now, looking at number 4, how many do I have to rise to get from J to K? I don't have to rise at all, right? So that's 0. And then how many do I run? Honestly, it doesn't matter, but it's 3. Why doesn't it matter? Because 0 divided by 3 or 0 divided by any number is still 0. So you would put the simplified answer of 0. Okay, so be careful. When you have a 0 in the denominator, undefined. When you have a 0 in the numerator, it's just 0. And here's another way you could look at it. Maybe you recognized this when you saw it. In number 3, this was a vertical line. So immediately you could have put undefined. And in number 4, this was a horizontal line. So immediately you could have just jumped straight to 0. If you're not sure how to tell the difference between those words, horizontal, vertical, this is how I've taught students in the past to remember. A horizontal line will have your horizon. And I always like my son to be smiling. Okay, so your horizontal line, think of your horizon. So that's your straight back and forth line. All right, so that's if it's graphed. What if it's not graphed? What if they give you the points? If they only give you the points, you might be interested in just using the equation for slope. And the mathematical equation for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The difference in your y values over the difference in your x values. So just like when we did distance and midpoint, you can label your points x1, y1, and x2, y2. And then you'll take those points and plug them into the equation. y2 is -1, y1 is 5, x2 is 6, and x1 is -2. So -1 minus 5 is -6. 6 minus -2, well, it's really 6 plus 2, 8. And then simplify your answer. -6/8 is a -3/4. So if you were to graph this line, your line would be going downhill because it's negative. That's not part of the question, but it's just a way to visualize it. If you don't want to memorize this equation, you don't have to. Here is how you can do it without memorizing the equation. Take your 2 points and a piece of graph paper and graph them. And once you graph them, then you can use this method over here. You will always be allowed to use graph paper on any of my tests or assessments, on any benchmark or midterms, finals, and even the SOL. You will always be allowed to have blank graph paper. So if you don't want to memorize the equation for slope, okay, just graph those 2 points and use your rise over run method, and it will still work every single time. You can put the points in Desmos in the not graphing calculator. The non-testing calculator. It's a really good idea to be able to do it in the testing, know how to use the testing calculator though, because it won't do it for you. Yeah, I've tried, Lydia. So that's why I don't even bring it up. On the SOL, you have to use the testing calculator, and they don't let you do that. Yeah, I didn't either until like a year ago. Okay, so I am going to let number 6, 7, and 8 be up to you because I want to make sure that we can cover as much as we can here. Yeah, they let you use Desmos on the SOL, but the testing calculator won't do what Lydia was telling me you can do on it. It has a few different functions. You could put the points in Desmos and then count the blocks. That would be great. That's another way to use like the graphing function. That's a good point, Brayden. But if you can't just put like slope and then have it calculate the slope for you. All right. On the next slide, there's more practice for slope for you. If you were feeling meh about slope, I encourage you to practice finding the slope here. Okay, and this key is on oh, you meant counting the blocks, Lydia. I misunderstood you. That's okay. What was I saying? If you felt meh about the slope, I encourage you to practice these and check them online. We're going to move on, though, to see how can slope relate to geometry, because this was all just an algebra review. Same with this one. This was with points. Okay, this is the geometry part. Okay, so why do we need to know slope? We learned that in algebra, Ms. Grandy. Well, the slope is going to help us determine whether lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So if the lines are parallel, they're going to have the same slope. So we have to be able to calculate slope in order to determine that. That makes me happy. Perpendicular lines are going to have opposite reciprocal slopes. And you might hear this also called negative reciprocal. I like opposite reciprocal. So either negative reciprocal or opposite reciprocal, same thing. Opposite reciprocals means that they are opposites. One's negative, one's positive. And reciprocal means that whatever's in the denominator and numerator in one number is going to get flipped for the other number. So some examples of opposite reciprocals, also known as negative reciprocals. 3/4 and, well, 3/4 is positive. So the opposite of a positive is negative. And then you're going to take what's in your denominator and numerator and flip-flop them. So the opposite reciprocal of 3/4 is negative 4/3. If you're given a whole number, remember every whole number does have a denominator. Its denominator is 1. So we're going to take the opposite of 2/1, which is negative, and then flip-flop your numerator and denominator. So Haley, you were really close. So negative 1/2 will be the opposite reciprocal of 2/1. What do you think will be the opposite reciprocal of negative 7/8? Type it in the chat. What do you think? Very good, Heather. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Who did that? Who was that? If you are making it like a pretty number, you're making it like 1 1/8. Technically, that's not wrong, but you're always going to want to leave your slope as an ugly fraction. So leave it 8/7. Okay, leave it an improper fraction. It's going to help you in the long run. So even if you wrote 1 1/7, yes, that's the right number, but leave it an improper fraction. This is going to help you be able to actually answer the questions a little later. So here's a tricky one, and it's not really tricky, but it's a good one to kind of make note of. 1. Yeah, Lydia, you got it. Oh, I didn't get to trick anybody. All right, well, what's in the denominator here? A 1. And so the opposite of 1 is a negative. And then when you flip-flop your numerator and denominator, you end up with the same number. So our answer here is actually just negative 1. So 1 and negative 1 are opposite reciprocals. It's the only one like that. It's the only one, where the numerator and denominator are the same number. And now here's another one that's kind of tricky. 0 and what? What do you think? Think about what's in the denominator and what happens when you flip them for the reciprocal. It's not 0. Nashmia, you got it. It's undefined. Okay? Because when you flip-flop a 0 and a 1, you get a 1/0. And remember, you can't divide by 0. So that's undefined. This is what happens when you see a vertical line and a horizontal line. You're going to have one with a 0 slope and one with an undefined slope. Yeah, we'll see that again in a moment. Whoa, okay, that was big for me. There we go. On the next slide, they're giving us a bunch of points A, B, C, and D. And they want to know, are these points parallel, perpendicular, or neither? These problems are kind of scaffolded for you, so it takes you through the steps On an assessment or a test, it's not going to take you through the steps. It's just going to say, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? And you have to answer the question. But you don't just want to guess. You want to be able to calculate the slopes of those and then compare them. So what you're going to do is you're going to calculate the slope of AB, whatever line they're asking for. So we're going to calculate the slope of AB, and then we're going to calculate the slope of CD, and we're going to compare them. If the slopes are the same, then we're looking at parallel lines. If they are opposite reciprocals, then they are perpendicular. And if they're neither one of those things, if they're not the same and they're not opposite reciprocals, then they're neither. So the way I notate this on my papers is I write the symbol for slope, AB, little sub AB. So this will be the slope for AB, and then slope CD. And so we need to calculate the slope for each of these. They gave it to me as points, so I'm going to use the formula. But if you wanted to graph these 2 points and use rise over run, you're welcome to do that too. Or as Lydia and Brayden were telling me, you can graph them in Desmos and count the blocks on the screen. Anyway, any of those ways are fine with me. I personally, I like to kind of put boxes around the ones that I want so that I don't get them mixed up. So for the slope of AB, we're going to subtract the y values, so 6 minus 3, and then subtract the x values, 2 minus negative 2. So let's see, 6 minus 3 is 3. 2 minus negative 2 is really 2 plus 2, which is 4. 3/4 cannot be reduced, so the slope of AB is 3/4. Then to find the slope of CD, subtract your y values in the top and your x values in the bottom. 3 minus 0 is 3. 3 minus negative 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So both of my slopes had a slope of 3/4. So the type of lines that I see are parallel. There we go. Easy as that. It's going to be the same process for every problem. It's just your numbers are going to be different. And when your numbers are different, that might change the type of lines. So let's look at number 2. We're going to find the slope of AB, and then we're going to find the slope of CD. Okay. You can find the slope again however you wish. You can use the formula, you can graph them and count the blocks, you can graph them on Desmos and count the blocks. For AB, I'm going to subtract my y values on the top and the x values on the bottom. So the slope of AB is 2/5. And for CD, we'll have 3 minus 8 and 3 minus 1, negative 5/2. All right, well, clearly these are not the same, so they're not parallel. Are they perpendicular? Well, one's positive, one's negative, and 2/5 flipped is 5/2. So they are perpendicular. You can write the word perpendicular. You might also see me use this symbol because that symbol means perpendicular. Try number 3. Try number 3. What do you think? What types of lines are AB and CD in number 3? Let's take 3 minutes. Find the slope of AB and CD and tell me what kind of lines we see. You don't need to type it in the chat. We'll do a poll in a second. So number 3. Okay, if you got the slope of each line was 2, and you said they were parallel, then you did it correctly. Let's go over the answer here real quick. If you used the formula for AB, the slope of AB will be 2 minus negative 12 over negative 2 minus negative 9. Let's see. Well, 2 minus negative 12 is really 2 plus 12, so that's 14. And negative 2 minus negative 9, or it's really negative 2 plus 9, which is 7. So the slope is positive 2. And your slope of CD, well, you're going to subtract your y values in the top, negative 2 minus 6 over negative 5 minus negative 1. Negative 2 minus 6 is a negative 8, and negative 5 minus a negative 1 is really negative 5 plus 1, which is negative 4. And a negative divided by negative is positive. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So both of their slopes were 2, and so they are parallel. If you did it by graphing, give me a moment to pull up some graph. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, there's the graph. Okay, myself some axes here. And maybe you graphed them on Desmos. Same idea, you'll graph the points and then count the blocks. A is at negative 9, negative 12. Definitely didn't give myself space here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's A. B is at negative 2, 2. So when you count your blocks, you're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So up 14. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right 7. So your rise over run would be 14 over 7, which reduces to 2. And then if you did the slope for CD, C is at negative 1, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And D is at negative 5, negative 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. D. So we would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we went up 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Right 7. Or right 4. Divide by 2. Divide by 4, you get 2. It might help to actually graph these because when you connect these points, oops, that wasn't right. A connects to B and D connects to C. You'll even be able to see, oh, these clearly are not perpendicular. So that can at least rule out one of the answers. All right. Let's look at one that's neither. Okay, so we already know the answer now, but let's look at one where that would be a neither. Let's look at number 4. Just so I'm doing it so I'm reaching the majority of you. If you are using the formula, give me a check. If you are graphing the points, give me an X. Check for formula, X for graph. Check for formula, X for graph. All right, most of us are using the formula. That's okay. I'm going to show you with the formula, but if you're one of those people using the graph, you are definitely welcome to still do that. I like graphing too. I like doing it all, actually. I'm not going to lie. We're going to find the slope of AB and the slope of CD. And if you want to graph them and find the slope, that's perfectly fine. So for AB, we're going to have the y values subtracted in the top and the x values subtracted in the bottom. So the slope is negative 2/3. Wonderful. Good job, Haley. And then for CD, subtract your y values in the top and your x values in the bottom. 1/4. Notice that those are not the same and they're not opposite reciprocals. So this would be a classic example of neither. So there's a lot of practice problems with these in these notes. I do want to show you another example of neither that can be a little trickier. So if you would please, if you have the notes printed or on your screen, I'm going to skip ahead to number 9 here real quick. Number 9, we're going to do the same thing, determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we find the slope, and hopefully by the end of these notes, we are all like experts on slope again. And if not, we can keep practicing. So -2 over -7. A negative over a negative is positive. So the slope of AB is 2/7. And I know I'm doing the slope here kind of fast because I really want to talk about what's going to happen. 1 minus -13, -2 minus -6. 14 over 4. That reduces. 2 goes into 14 7 times, and 2 times into 4. All right, this is what I want to talk about. When you get two slopes that look like this, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? And I'm going to make this a poll. Okay, so 1 second. Okay. If you think that they are parallel, you're going to say A, B is perpendicular, C is neither, and D is, I wasn't paying attention, so now I have to guess. What do you think? The slope is 2/7, and the slope is 7 over 2. I tricked some of you. That's okay. Let's learn from this. If you said neither, you were correct. Okay, and the reason why, if they're parallel, they have to be the same number. Well, 2/7 and 7/2 are not the same number, so not parallel. You might be tricked into saying perpendicular, but remember, when they're perpendicular, they have to have opposite reciprocal slopes. So these guys have the reciprocal part, but they don't have the negative part. See how they're both positive? They're not opposites. So these are not perpendicular. They are neither. Okay. If they're going to be perpendicular, they have to be opposite reciprocals. So one has to be negative and one has to be positive. Yep, exactly. That's a really good way to put it, Jasmine. One has to be negative, one has to be positive. And then they have to be reciprocals also. So even though they're reciprocals, they're not opposite reciprocals. So we just have to watch out for that. All right, I want to look at, I know I'm kind of bouncing around. I just want to make sure we cover everything. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's look at number 8. So we're going to go back a page and we're going to look at number 8. Okay, so let's look at number 8. Here's A, B, C, and D. Let's calculate the slopes of line AB and line CD. So go ahead and do that now, and then we're going to talk about what that means. Okay, so we're calculating the slope of AB. My pen got weird. And CD. A, B, and CD. You can use your graphing and count the blocks. You can use your formula. I'm going to start putting mine on the board too, so we can compare in a second. Well, in a minute. All right. Hopefully you got the slope of AB was -1 and the slope of CD is 1. So what do you think? For number 8, are they parallel, perpendicular, neither, or you're not paying attention at all and you're just guessing? I needed something for D. Yes, yes, yes. All right, anyone else out there want to answer A, B, C, or D? If you weren't finished calculating the slope, you can use mine. Slope of AB is -1 and the slope of CD is 1. -1 and 1. Parallel, perpendicular, neither. Yeah, I got the slopes there. I just don't have the answer yet. Oh, that's okay, Jasmine. Oh, what did you pick? All right. Most of us got it, and a couple of us got tricked. If you can't see the poll, I'm going to guess that you're either on a phone or a tablet. If you're on a computer and you still can't see it, or you can't see the screen, send me a message in the chat to tell me you're going to come out, leave, and come back. So that way I can look for you in the waiting room since the door is now locked. Okay, so the answer here is actually perpendicular. What? Yeah, remember 1 and -1. All right, Tia, I'm going to look for you. 1 and -1 are opposite reciprocals. So our answer here is perpendicular. This is the really only number where your numerator and denominator are the same number. So when you flip-flop them, that's what you get. I would put a star on number 8 because this is one where students will see a -1 and a 1, and they're going to say neither because they don't look like reciprocals maybe. It seems to be the one that throws students off the most. So you just got to remember that -1 and 1 are actually opposite reciprocals. All right, and now let's look at number 11. Oh, before we do that, let's give you your attendance quiz word. Here you go. Your attendance quiz word is neither. Neither is your attendance quiz word. Write that down. I know time is flying. Give me a green check when you got the attendance word. Either you're doing the quiz right now or you're writing it down for later. Neither. Got to spell it right. Capitalization doesn't matter. You just got to spell it right. Neither. Neither. I've got it, Miss Grandy. I'm ready to move on. And when you are ready to move on, you're welcome to move to number 11 and start it. Max, I love your enthusiasm. All right, anyone else out there need the attendance word? I'm going to move on and I can't go back. All right. Well, yeah, all right. We're going to move on to number 11. Number 11, let's calculate the slope of AB and CD. A, B, and CD. Let's calculate their slopes. If you're graphing it, go ahead and graph them. If you're using the formula, we'll use the formula. I'm going to use the formula. no. Jasmine, send me an email. Tell me what you did. We'll get you fixed. All right. So what does 9 over 0, what does it reduce to? What is 9 over 0? 9 divided by 0 is undefined. Undefined. So 9 divided by 0 is undefined. Right? I can't take 9 cookies and give it to 0 people. Right? I can't just make those cookies disappear. Well, I mean, I probably could. But or 9 pens, right? They have to go somewhere. They have to go to somewhere. So you can't divide by 0. You can't have 9 objects and then give them to 0 people. They would still have to be at least in one group. You cannot divide by 0. So anytime you see a 0 in a denominator, that's undefined. So the slope of AB is undefined. Now, what's 0 divided by 3? I have 0 cookies and I'm going to give them to 3 children. How many cookies does each child get? Sorry, children, you get 0. Okay. Please notice there's a huge difference here. One is undefined. That is when the 0 is in the denominator. The other is just 0, and that's when 0 is in the numerator. What kind of line has an undefined slope? What kind of line has an undefined slope? A vertical line. So it's AB, that's a vertical line. What kind of line has a 0 slope? It has a slope of 0, a horizontal line. So a vertical and a horizontal line, are those parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, they're going to be perpendicular. Okay. A horizontal line and a vertical line will always be perpendicular to one another. You can think of those as the axes on your graph. The x-axis is horizontal, the y-axis is vertical, and they will always be perpendicular to one another. All right, let's do one more example before we call it a day. Let's look at number 12. And I'm going to let you do this one completely on your own. Let's take like 3 or 4 minutes, find the slope, and then determine the types of lines, and I'll put a poll up here and see how we did. Okay, so we're doing number 12. And Tia, I sent you a message about what you missed when you were refreshing, just so you know you can see it there. All right, let's see how we did. So we have line AB and line CD. Are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So far, so good. Mostly. Anyone else want to answer out there? I've got about half of you there. All right, anyone else? All right, if you said they were parallel, good job. Parallel is correct. So let's look at why. Okay, a lot of you had it correct, and I thank you for that. If you did not say parallel, let's make sure that we didn't make any silly errors with our counting or our adding or subtracting. So the slope of AB, subtract your y values in the top, subtract your x values in the bottom, or plot your points. Well, -4 minus 1 is -5, and 3 minus 3 is 0. If you graphed these points, you graphed a vertical line. Okay, so -5 over 0, that reduces to undefined. We cannot divide by 0. 0 is not allowed to be in the denominator. So we have an undefined slope. Then we find the slope of CD. We use the equation or we graph the points. When you use your equation, you get 5 minus 1 on the top and -4 minus -4 on the bottom. So we get 4 over 0. If you graphed the points, you got another vertical line. The slope of a vertical line, or dividing by 0, gives you another undefined. I have 2 vertical lines. Okay, well, if I have 2 vertical lines, they are parallel. They're both undefined. Since they are both undefined, they have the same slope. They're parallel. Or you could even think about, oh, I'm graphing 2 lines. Here's my coordinate. Here's a vertical line. Here's a vertical line. They will never intersect. They're parallel. So 2 vertical lines will always be parallel to each other. Wow, that looks bad. Let me try that again. Not much better. 2 horizontal lines will always be parallel. And 1 horizontal and 1 vertical, those will be perpendicular. Okay. That was today's lesson. On Monday, you're going to get another play posit. That play posit is going to use the idea of slope, and it's going to add some equations of lines in there with it. And I'll go over everything with it. But before Monday, make sure that this whole slope thing and understanding whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, you want to have that down pat, so that way Monday's play posit feels easy. All right. Don't forget to do the exit ticket today. Don't forget to do the attendance word. And if you didn't do the play posit on Monday, you want to make sure you get that done, because the attendance quiz for that will close on Monday at 11 a.m. It was really great seeing everyone. If you still have questions or you want me to go over something, I have a couple minutes here. I can do that. You can type it in the chat. If you don't have any questions, you are free to go, and I hope you have a lovely day.